Thanks for that, Stuart.
Sorry, Chair, I still need to take the sediment.
Sorry?
I still need to take the sediment. I need to take the sediment.
Right.
Welcome to this meeting of the Hamilton Area Committee of 3rd September 2025. I'll now take the sediment. I understand that Councillor Andy Carmichael is having some technical issues and hopefully will be able to join us soon. The following members are present. Councillors Maureen Chalmers, Ross Clark, Maureen Devlin, Colin Dewar, Mary Donnelly, Alan Faulkner, Shalene Handybod, Graham Horn, Martin Grant-Hose, Cal Johnson-Dempsey, Gavin Wiley-Keat, Kenny McCreary, Leslie MacDonald. Councillor Mark McGeever is not present. The following members are all present. Councillors Dave McLachlan, Richard Nelson, Maura Zack, John Ross, Bert Thompson and Helen Toner. Thank you, and I'll pass you back to the Chair for today's business.
Thanks for that, Chair. Right. Item 1, declaration of interests. Do you have any declaration of interests? None? Okay. Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 8. Submit them for approval. Submit them for approval. Seconded?
Yes.
Thank you. Items for noting. Item 3, unpaid work presentation. Claire Borden to provide a presentation. Claire.
Many thanks, Chair. For those who haven't met yet, my name is Claire Borden. I'm one of the fieldwork managers within Justice Services in South Lanarkshire, and I currently have the remit for unpaid work services across South Lanarkshire, and I've been asked to attend today to provide a presentation to discuss what's been going on over the past year across South Lanarkshire in terms of unpaid work. So I'm going to have a presentation shared on screen and hopefully go through some slides to give you some visuals in terms of some of the work that's taken place in the Hamilton area and across South Lanarkshire, and also to give some data and figures around how much work's been conducted by the Unpaid Work Service over the past year. The slides moving forward, thank you. So aims of today, we're looking to provide some data, as I say, and we're also looking to provide some evidence in terms of the benefit that the Unpaid Work Service has created across the Hamilton area community. We also wish to offer the opportunity for any comments or questions after the presentation if anyone would like to discuss any matters relating to unpaid work. So if we can move to the next slide, please. And the next one again, thank you. So first thing that I would want to speak about is the data captured across July 2024 and July 2025. Over that time period, South Lanarkshire have received 743 new community payback orders, and as part of that, there are 97,499 hours that have been imposed in terms of unpaid work. Throughout that same time period, we have completed 62,633.3 hours in terms of unpaid work across the South Lanarkshire community. Next slide, please. I've broken down the different referral sections in terms of different locality areas. These are the internet referrals that the team would receive in terms of specific requests and tasks that would be conducted across the locality areas. So you'll see there in terms of Hamilton locality, we've had 146 separate referrals coming from a range of different agencies and individuals requesting tasks from the Unpaid Work Service. Next slide, please. These are a breakdown in terms of some of the online referral routes provided to unpaid work. So there are a wide range of different partner agencies who are asking for additional support for different tasks across the community, and these are the ones for Hamilton. You'll see there that there's a number of different opportunities that are coming across the social work and housing resources in terms of work that the unpaid work are undertaking, and we're also supporting areas such as gardening work in sheltered housing complexes, as well as supporting different primary schools and nursery schools and third sector partners across the South Lanarkshire area. Next slide, please. In terms of Hamilton, we have conducted a host of work from particularly our young persons group, and what we've done is effectively look at building planters for the site on supporting our communities in the Hill House area. We've also helped repair a summer hut that was donated by a school, and that has then been donated to Salk and Hill House. Some of these repairs were done in our workshop, and some of these were completed on site to try and establish and rebuild some of the areas to support the Supporting Our Community service. So we've got some pictures in terms of some of the work that had taken place there. So that is some of the work that was conducted to put the donated hut in the area up in Hill House. Next slide, please. This is an example of some of the work that has been conducted as well in relation to a kinship care arrangement, where work were required to be undertaken in the garden area to make that more suitable for the children that were going to be living there. So these are before and after pictures of some of the work after the unpaid work team has been in to tidy up the garden and make that safer for the children to be taking place in. Next slide, please. This is an example of some of the work that unpaid work have done in Wester Overton Nursery. The team were asked to go in and look at whether they can support doing up and tidying up their growing house, and you'll see the before and after pictures. A few things were broken, things weren't working, so we've went in and repaired and done up the growing house so that that can be used by the children in Wester Overton Nursery. Next slide, please. This next picture is some work that was done in Mackinhill Primary School in Lark Hall. So again, this was a tidy up in terms of supporting the school, in terms of the use for the children in the playground area and what is the pirate ship that's in their playground. So again, general tidy up and maintenance in terms of making sure that that was safe and appropriate for the children going back to school. Next slide, please. These are more pictures of some of the gardening works that were done in terms of the raised beds and along the benches to make sure again that any of the overgrown areas in terms of the children going back to school, that was all addressed and tidied up by the unpaid work team across South Lanarkshire. Next slide, please. This next example is some work that was undertaken by the unpaid work team for a person who had spent a long-term period within hospital, and the gardening work was required for the resident who had long-term mobility issues. And again, this was for safety measures to ensure that it was safe and appropriate in terms of them being able to use their garden when they returned home from hospital. So again, you'll see the before and after pictures in terms of some of the work that our unpaid work service was going out to do to enable that person to be successfully discharged from hospital and have access to their garden area. Next slide, please. Next thing I was going to speak about is a little bit about our wood workshop, which is based down in Blantyre's Auchentibber Resource Centre. We've got a dedicated workshop in that area, and we use reclaimed wood to enable our service to build items within the workshop that then gets donated to different places across South Lanarkshire. We've particularly focused on the production of mud kitchens, buddy benches and birdhouses, which have then been donated to local charities, groups, schools and nurseries. I'll give you some examples in the next pictures to follow. Next slide, thank you. So this is an example of one of our mud kitchens, which again has been built out of pallets. And you'll see on the second picture there's also one of the buddy benches in that in place in situ in one of the schools or nurseries. We've tried to make sure that there are offers in terms of this across South Lanarkshire, and we've actually got one in the workshop just now that the team are currently working on, and that's been made to a bigger size upon the request of the school area. So these are some of the things that we've been able to put in place over the past year. Next slide, please. I wanted to speak a little bit more about the development of our wellbeing group and our young person service aimed at young people aged 16 to 25. The wellbeing group was established to provide additional support to individuals who may have increased complex needs or additional vulnerabilities, and the aim is to try and support them in a way that helps them get through their unpaid work hours successfully without having to be returned to court. We've provided a dedicated resource to young people aged 16 to 25 who received unpaid work, with an increased focus in terms of activity, as well as focusing on their wellbeing and welfare related activities that can also support them in terms of engaging with their community and educational courses and activities. The next slide gives some examples, if we can move on to that, in terms of some of the work that the Young Persons Group and Wellbeing Group have done over the past year. So we've had a number of different events and a number of educational talks for the group, and we have also facilitated Keep Well nursing appointments to look at health. We've also completed a REHIS food hygiene course where service users were supported to complete that successfully in December 2024. We've also had a number of our young people attend with the fire service to do a home fire safety and road safety programme. Tree planting I'll speak a bit more about in future slides as well, and the young people have been involved in terms of tree planting across the area of South Lanarkshire over the past year. Next slide, please. This is some work that the Young Persons Group done in Ernock Pavilion. We were asked in terms of going up to make sure the graffiti was painted over in Ernock Pavilion, and our Young People's Group focused on that, and we did some educational work in and around the impact of graffiti at the same time. Next slide, please. We've also developed effectively our garden in terms of what we're able to do in terms of seed to plate, and what we are looking at is how in Auchentibber Resource Centre we can grow different fruits and vegetables that can then be contributing towards our REHIS course, and also how that goes towards supporting people to have lunch together, and also occasionally what we'll do is there are fruit and vegetables available that can be provided to community groups and charities, including homeless charities. Next slide, please. This is an example of some of the fruits and vegetables that have been grown in the Auchentibber garden, and these you will see in the slide before created what the kind of end product was in terms of bringing all that together. So they will effectively go out to the garden, they will pick the fruits and vegetables and then create a meal with that that's shared between the group and then distributed appropriately. Next slide, please. Positive Futures Group is a group that has been commenced since 2023, and it's facilitated by unpaid work case managers. The aim of that group is to provide participants with positive group work environment to support changes through physical activity, nutrition and awareness, and supports activities within their local community. Each group comprises of a physical activity. We also bring in outside speakers, and we determine different agencies with the group to provide inputs for different sessions. They also do work in the Kitchen Learning Hub and speak about nutrition, cooking on a budget, cooking skills and how you can prepare meals at home on a budget. Thank you. Next slide, please. These are some pictures in terms of the group out playing squash and then the meal that they created thereafter in terms of sharing that. And this has contributed towards confidence building and also self-esteem building in terms of people being involved in activities that they may have not been involved in previously. Next slide, please. I won't go through all of the feedback, but you will see here a range of different feedback sessions that have taken place in relation to the Positive Futures group, and one particular one in terms of somebody having moved on from that group to then sign up with Life's Work course, which they hope will help them into employment after their experience of the justice system. Next slide, please. Next thing I'm going to speak about is the remote unpaid work projects. These are remote projects that are monitored by unpaid work case managers and reviewed on a regular basis. And these enable people to conduct work towards the benefit of the community from home. These include work on things like survival blankets for homeless rough sleepers, rag rugs and diamond art. And the beneficiaries of these remote projects include local nurseries, care homes, homeless projects and animal rescue centres, as well as individuals moving into new tenancies across South Lanarkshire. Next slide, please. This is examples of some of the posters that we have in the building that shows some of the survival blankets. These are made out of crisp packets that are donated, and then they're created using a kit to turn them into foil safety blankets. We also do rag rugs, as you'll see, and this creates kind of stitching from rags and cloth materials, which we then distribute, and you'll see the wee dog here down in one of the recent SSPCA centres who's received that as well, so the team are regularly making those. Next slide, please. This is an example of some of the diamond artwork, and these are individual. You see each pixel on one of those pictures is an individual bead or diamond that the person inserts, and then these pieces of artwork are being distributed across the community. We've put these in things like different hub areas, community halls, and nurseries have also requested some of the diamond art projects that unpaid work have successfully completed. Next slide, please. Other activities and working with local partners, you'll see there has been a range of different partnership working taking place with unpaid work over the past 12 months. This includes work alongside NHS Lanarkshire, Clyde Climate Forest and also with the Fire Service Shield. Next slide, please. I'll speak a little bit more about the work that's ongoing in terms of Clyde Climate Forest. So Clyde Climate Forest will see 18 million trees planted in both urban and rural parts of Glasgow City region and over South Lanarkshire, and the vision is to plant the right trees in the right places to help nature recover and thrive. Unpaid Working Team, with partnership with CCF, have looked at the vision in terms of how we can contribute by planting and maintaining the tree saplings, as well as growing the trees from seed in our kitchen garden. To date, we've been able to successfully plant 3,000 trees, and the team continue to look at how they can help that upkeep across the South Lanarkshire area. And next is some examples of some of the work that's taken place in and around South Lanarkshire in terms of that tree planting. Next slide as well, please. Going back to the Auchentibber Kitchen Garden, so this commenced in 2021 with the support of an educational gardener. And since that time we have developed the polytunnel and raised beds, and we've got growing area now in terms of flower patches. The garden has an annual harvest calendar with different fruits and vegetables being grown year round, and these are provided in terms of cooking in our learning hub and how these are distributed in terms of a summer soup programme and other aspects that we can give to local charities. During the reporting period, we've been working to prepare the garden for the winter cohort. That will be starting kind of February, March 2025, and that should be ready. So yesterday there were pumpkins getting picked in the garden for Halloween, and some of these are going to be distributed to nurseries and local schools. We've received support from Castlebank Horticultural Centre to help us improve our knowledge and increase the products that we're going to be able to grow in the kitchen garden. Next slide, please. This is some of the examples of some of the work that's taken place in the garden so far on the basis of the support received from Castlebank. Next slide again, please. Next thing I'm going to speak about is the unpaid work laundry service. Now, the laundry service provides an opportunity for emergency laundry provisions to both vulnerable adults and families from a referral from social work. We also cater to include wider community opportunities, things like laundering football kits, and also towels for holistic and therapeutic treatments from a number of charities. We will launder and iron different clothing items as well for individual charity shops. We have worked in partnership with local schools and community groups to also launder uniforms to make sure that young people who have access to new uniforms before they go back to school. We've also provided opportunities in terms of uniforms for the clothing bank, but also laundered graduation gowns so that people can attend graduation ceremonies. The winter annual jacket appeal in 2024 saw us work with over 200 winter jackets, which were laundered and then donated via unpaid work services, and 10 schools were able to benefit from the winter jacket appeal in terms of those being distributed across South Lanarkshire. In June, we also undertook our school uniform project, and again, we've been able to provide opportunities for school uniform banks to be able to give out increased amounts of uniform, again, helping sustainability and environmental aspects in relation to that also. Next slide, please. The most recent piece of work that we've been involved in is undertaking some work alongside Joanne Miller. Dr. Joanne Miller has done research in relation to things around about young people involved in the justice system. And we've worked together with Police Scotland to look at developing focus groups which have contributed towards a painted mural which is going to now be input into police custody suite in Motherwell. What it does is it's designed with a focus in terms of support, in terms of people that may find themselves within the police custody suite to be able to access and be signposted to additional supports. And this is based on the themes from the focus group from people at unpaid work who have contributed to those sessions. Next slide, please. This is a picture of an event that took place back in November, where we had the Cabinet Secretary for Justice and Home Affairs, Angela Constance, visit our base in Auchentibber down at unpaid work. So I know that a number of people were involved in that visit also, and there was very good feedback in terms of the work that South Lanarkshire is doing, in terms of its unpaid work facility and the work that's going on across the community. Next slide, please. Now at the stage to come to an end and welcome any feedback in relation to any local community members who would like us to consider any additional tasks or work that unpaid work could do. I've also shared the presentation, and that attached is the link where people can make direct referrals to the team for consideration in terms of tasks that people would like to see being undertaken by the unpaid work team across South Lanarkshire. Next slide, please. I've put my contact details there should anyone wish to contact me with any particular queries or anything else they would like to discuss in relation to unpaid work. And there's an opportunity just now if there's any comments or questions people would like to ask, and thank you so much.
Thanks very much for that comprehensive review there, Claire. Do we have any questions? Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, Councillor Thompson, you're right. Councillor Thompson. No, you're going to need to press it again, sorry.
That's it.
Right, thank you. Thanks. Sorry, guys. Listen, the diversity of work's amazing there. It certainly opened my eyes up, and it's valuable in the community. I see you keep it online. How would the general public or groups, what way can you promote yourself through them, or give us information so we can promote on your behalf? Thank you. Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you so much for that question. We are currently exploring our opportunities in terms of how we develop increased awareness in terms of unpaid work, and we're particularly looking at how we can promote via social media. It's something we've not been able to do very successfully in the past, so it's something we're looking to do. We've also created this week what we've called a feedback week. So we had an open event last night in Auchentibber Resource Centre where we invited members of the public, beneficiaries for the service, to come in and visit us and also to give us feedback in terms of how we can connect better and how we can share the information about unpaid work. So we are proactive in terms of what we want to do next. We would welcome any visits and any comments in terms of ways that people could suggest that we can potentially increase awareness. And what we are trying to do is make sure that people are directed to our website in terms of South Lanarkshire's Justice page so that they can access that referral. And if we receive any phone calls or we have any discussions with members of the public, what we would do is make sure that we find a way to send them the referral form and accept their referral form so that we can assess whatever jobs are needing to be done. So that's the ways we're trying to look at it just now. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor John Ross.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Mine is not so much a question, it's more a comment. I'd like to thank Claire and her team for the very comprehensive report. I like Bert, I'm absolutely amazed at both the content and the variety of projects that Claire's team are involved in. I think you're doing a marvellous job, Claire, and all the more benefit to you. Thanks very much, and I hope you continue to do well. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, John. Councillor Mary Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Claire, that was an absolute fantastic report, and thank you very much for all the hard work. Please take that back, the hard work that the team does do. I did take advantage of doing the visit. Yesterday, myself and Maureen Chalmers visited Auchentibber, and it was blow away. What I'm really pleased about is that my groups are using it, like SOC, Hill House residents and tenants, and the War Memorial for the Covenanters, where you helped to reinvigorate that, which was really fantastic, and that made a big difference to the Covenanter group within Ward 18. So they were really, really proud of what you have done. I know SOC have been really over the moon what you did there as well for them, and the Hill House residents and tenants. You always amaze them when you're called on to help them with any project that they need in their recreational space. It really does make a big difference. I was over the moon with the laundry service. I think it's, you know, in this day and age, we think everybody's got a washing machine, everybody's got a dryer, but they don't. That is the one thing that goes in homes when people are suffering. So it's really good to see that you've got that laundry service, because I know I got another shop to install laundry washing machines, and that's going up in Hill House as well, just because the need was there, and some people don't have that service in their house. They just can't afford it. If it breaks down, that's them in trouble. So everything that you are doing is fantastic. The other thing that I was really pleased about, we asked about the people who were reoffending, and that was very low, minimum, if at all. So coming through the project, there was a big difference in change of lifestyle, change attitudes, and that helped them with the lifestyle that they could choose, knowing that there was another path for them. So you are getting through and making a big difference. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart, Claire.
Okay.
Can I just say thank you so much for that feedback, and the feedback that was received from a number of different people who attended the event last night. It has made a big difference to the team, and it's really appreciated that you see the impact, I suppose, that unpaid work can have. I think sometimes there are concerns in terms of how that benefits the community, but also how it benefits the individuals going through that service. It's not an easy task to do a number of hours of unpaid work and the expectations that are placed upon people. So it is really appreciated in terms of the work that you're doing, also in terms of encouraging and supporting people to understand more about unpaid work and how we can benefit different components of our community. So thank you for that.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Richard Nelson.
Thank you, Chair. Just one point was just about the About Turn project and the armed forces personnel that come out into the unpaid system. because we never really mentioned, or you never really mentioned that, Claire, during your preamble there about all the things that they do, and I think that's something that's missing because it's really, really good. Project that happens out at Auchentibba for these, in my opinion, the unforgotten soldiers who are left and end up in the criminal justice system. So I would like to hear a wee bit more just about that and how that programme is still moving forward, because I believe there is still going. So probably just to hear a wee bit more about that, because I think we probably missed that.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. In terms of the project that started this, we had to put the slides in about Positive Futures, so it's been renamed as Positive Futures, and the work that was undertaken, it also includes veteran support, and you'll know the person that had facilitated that group continues to facilitate the group, and it was their delivery in terms of the mix of physical activity. So they'll do things like they will go walks, I think it was Tinto Hill last week, so there would be physical activity included in some of the work that they do, but also programmes work around about wellbeing, welfare, and also the use of the kitchen and learning hub. So the group very much is ongoing, and obviously that supports a range of people as well as our veteran community and unpaid work. And we are continuing to work on what we would do in terms of enhancing the opportunities that are available so that people can access, I suppose, the appropriate programmes and support services. So what we mentioned also was that the group will think about individual speakers and topics that they would want to focus on as part of that group, and we've had a wide variety of different partner services coming in to support that service. So as I say, the feedback slide that I'd showed was particularly round about that programme, and we are receiving very positive feedback from the people who are engaging with that programme, so it's very much something we are keen to continue and to make that offer across the board to everyone in South Lanarkshire, and that includes our veteran population as well, Councillor Nelson.
Yeah, thank you. Just to supplementary, Chair, just to say that I think it's a great news story for South Lanarkshire Council, because we're the first one who actually did this, and that's why I think it was pertinent just to try and put that out there, because this is a really good news story for the unpaid work service and the work that they're doing for the veterans. So, you know, from my point of view, getting that into the Armed Forces Covenant that we did within the council as well, to make sure that we do try and pick up these people who come out the Armed Forces and do struggle and end up in the criminal justice system. So thank you very much for that, and very supportive of what you brought forward this afternoon.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Leslie MacDonald.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Claire. Absolutely delighted with everything you've told us today. You have done a number of things for me in Larkhall, especially to assist one of our disabled. He's blind, and his guide dog going down the steps down to Millhew is almost impossible till your guys and ladies presumably stepped in. So yeah, just want to thank you for that, and no doubt you'll be back out sometime soon. The other thing I want to ask is, we knew nothing about last night. So can you tell me how you notified? Did you notify all councillors? Because certainly nothing came to me. No? No. Sorry, at this side there's nothing.
I can only apologise that the invite has not reached everyone. My understanding was that it was distributed across all councillors across South Lanarkshire with the invite for the open evening last night. If that is still a view in terms of people would like to conduct a visit, we're more than happy to facilitate that and arrange that so that people can come and experience and see, I suppose, the centre, but also a wee bit about some of the additional work that we've been doing across the area. Thank you for the mention of the work in Larkhall. I've actually just been out on a visit in Larkhall, funny enough, this morning with the unpaid work team on the basis of just seeing the variation of the different work that's ongoing. So it is very much things that we are discussing as round about where there are potential pockets or areas of need. How can we ensure that we can provide as much as we are able in terms of making sure that those community tasks and jobs are being done? So again, it goes back to a question that was asked earlier, awareness raising and what more we can do to help contribute towards the local areas. Please do let us know if there's anything else that you think we could be involved in, that you think would be helpful, and we'll do our utmost to try and make sure that we're getting the best benefit in terms of how we're utilising our resource across unpaid work.
Okay, thanks very much for that. There's no further questions. That's the committee takes it to note the presentation. Agreed, thank you. Right, Claire, if you wish to leave. Thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Go on to item 4, The annual housing and homeless update, pages 9 to 14. David Edgar to speak to the report. David?
Good afternoon, councillors. My name is David Edgar. I'm the area housing manager for the Hamilton locality, and it's lovely to be along here this afternoon. I hope you're all doing well. The purpose of my report this afternoon is just to provide an annual housing and homelessness update for activity across the year 2024 to 2025. Section 3 begins with some context to the report. As you will be aware, South Lanarkshire Council declared a housing emergency in June 2024, and this was in response to a sustained and significant increase in the demand for homelessness services. To give some further context, from 2020 to 2023, the Council experienced a 38% increase in the number of people recorded by the Council as homeless, as well as a 101% increase in the backlog of urgent need homeless households awaiting offer of permanent rehousing. So in terms of my report this afternoon, section 3.2 highlights some of the areas that I will touch upon, which is the Hamilton Division's stock profile, allocations in lets, our rent management and homelessness. So kicking off at section 4 in terms of a stock profile, just to give some supplementary information, as of the 31st of March of this year, South Lanarkshire Council owns 10,132 residential properties in the Hamilton Division area. And to put that within context, that is 39% of the Council's total housing stock, which at the moment is 25,974 properties. Again, probably just to put this in a bit of context for you, Table 4.3 outlines the breakdown of those properties in terms of the size of them. And I think 2 points to note are you can see there that 74% of our properties are 1 and 2 bedroom properties. And then you can start to see the kind of drop off in the larger style family homes. I think probably particularly noticeable at the 4-bed properties, with only 325 across the whole Hamilton Division area. So in terms of some of the work being carried out to address that, 4.5 highlights the work being carried out through the Affordable Housing Supply Programme. So last year we took delivery of 50 new council homes within the Brackenhill Farm area in Hamilton. So these added 8 one-bedroom properties, 19 two-bedroom properties, 18 three-bed properties and 5 4-bed properties to the housing stock within the area. In addition to that, there's also been work carried out through the market purchase scheme, where we acquired 20 additional properties last year. And again, just in terms of the breakdown there, it was 4 one-bed properties, 11 two-bedroom properties, 4 three-bedroom properties, and 1 4-bedroom property. And just to give councillors some assurance, we're consistently looking for properties on the market at any given time, particularly for 2 types of property in the Hamilton Division. One would be larger family-style homes, and others would be homes that are what we class as either amenity or helpful for individuals that have got mobility issues, because that's where we have particular backlogs on our waiting lists. In terms of allocations in lets at section 5, so during the last year, there were only 664 properties became available for let across the Hamilton Division area. And again, table 5.2 highlights the breakdown of them across the size of the properties. And again, I hope it's probably noticeable to you. You can see that only 3% of those properties, for example, are 4-bedroom, the larger family-style homes that I'm sure a lot of you will have casework and constituents approaching you about. So it just gives you that context of that's actually what we had available to let. And it probably highlights the importance of us identifying, for example, properties on the market purchase scheme, so that we can increase that stock profile. In terms of our performance in this area, for our allocations, our relets, the average number of days that we turned around a property last year was 24.35 days. Now, comparing that to the South Lanarkshire Council average, that was 18.87, so we're slightly above that. But again, just to give some assurance, our target for the whole of South Lanarkshire was 26 days, so we are exceeding that target. And as of today, we're in reporting period 4, we're at 22 days, and I'm really keen to move closer to that South Lanarkshire average, and it hopefully gives you that context that we're moving in that direction. If I could move on to rent management at section 6. This is obviously essential to fund the service and fund our delivery of new build homes, repairs service, etc. So it's a priority for the service, and last year I'm pleased to advise that in terms of rent collected, Hamilton Division collected 99.86% of rent due. Again, in comparison to the South Lanarkshire Council average, we were just slightly below that. That was at 100.21%. In terms of our gross rent arrears, now this includes our current tenants who are in arrears as well as former tenants. This was at 8.09% at March 2025. Again, slightly above the South Lanarkshire Council average of 7.1%. but below the target set for Hamilton Division, which was 8.9%. And I again would just like to highlight that across the previous financial year, the Hamilton Division reduced its gross rent arrears by 1.26%, so hopefully demonstrating that improvement in performance. And again, just for added information, our current gross rent arrears as of reporting period 4 is at 6.83%, so showing that continued and sustained improvement in this area. Section 6.3 again highlights a really important matter. During 24-25, there were 10 instances of evictions carried out for rent arrears. I'd like to just add to that, none of those households involved any children. They were all single people. We do look in any eviction as a failure because it's a failed tenancy, but I can give you assurance that there was repeated contact attempts from my officers, from wider support across the council in terms of money matters and other services, and that we were, due to the balance on those accounts and repeated non-payment, we had no further option to carry them out. And hopefully it gives you assurance that it is a low level of evictions that's been carried out. We do deem it as an absolute last resort. Finally, just in terms of a brief update in terms of our homelessness service. So during 24-25, there were 947 homelessness presentations within the Hamilton Division, and that accounted for 38% across the whole of South Lanarkshire Council. As of the 31st of March 2025, the number of households awaiting an offer of housing on the urgent housing list in the Hamilton area was 663. And again, for context, that accounts for 43% across South Lanarkshire, which is a slight reduction of 4% from where we were at the end of March the previous year. Section 7.3 highlights the number of households in temporary accommodation at that time, which was 350. And again, just important to highlight, of that 350 households, 105 contain children within them. And again, it's another focus for my team and our service to, as quickly as possible, identify suitable housing for those families. And there is instances where we would consider flipping a tenancy if an individual is in suitable accommodation. So that does occur. 7.4, section 7.4 highlights during last year the average time to close a homelessness case. That's from initial presentation to being rehoused was 333 days. And again, that has been increasing in recent years due to the increased pressure on our service, the more people presenting. And you can see, obviously, the throughput I've got in terms of the actual amount of properties I've got to allocate is not increasing during that time. And finally, at section 7.6, we just wanted to highlight an area where we perform really well, and that's in terms of sustaining tenancies. So during last year, 92.1% of households sustained their tenancy for more than 12 months following a period of homelessness. That's higher than the South Lanarkshire average, which is just narrowly below that at 91.3%. And a lot of work goes into achieving that, from initial presentation with the individual, making an assessment for additional support needs, all the way through to when they take on their tenancy support from the local housing officer, as well as maybe use of a tenancy sustainment fund to help sustain their tenancy successfully. In terms of next steps, housing services will continue to manage the housing stock and support tenants to sustain their tenancies, as well as our priority being tackling the backlog of people that are awaiting housing on our urgent homeless list. I'll provide a further annual housing and homelessness update to the Hamilton Area Committee in September 2026, but I hope that above information has been helpful, and I'm happy to take any questions that members have. Thank you.
Thanks for that, David. With any questions? Councillor Chalmers, Maureen Chalmers.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much, David, for that really comprehensive report. That was really good. First of all, I just want to say thank you to you and your team, because I know none of this is easy. But I always get the most, very courteous and very quick responses to any inquiries I send to you and your team. So thank you for that. I was particularly struck by the sustainability, this, figure that's really strong. And I think, given the pressures on your team, but more importantly, given the pressures on members of our community and our tenants in particular here, that's a real credit, I think, to you and to the team round about you and other partners who support our tenants. Can I just ask, I know that we were one of the 5 councils that secured additional funding for acquisitions from Scottish Government, so it'd be good to know what benefit that brought and how that was able to support the team and reaching these achievements.
David.
Certainly, Councillor, and thank you for your comments. In terms of the additional funding, it is obviously noted within the report that we had acquired the additional 20 properties, so that's primarily where we've focused those funds. And as I tried to give some additional assurance, we are on a daily basis scouring certainly what's on the open market, as well as being approached by individuals that are looking to sell their properties. And again, we'd just highlight, we'll look at any property across the Hamilton locality, but just particular focus for myself and my team on those larger family style properties, 3 beds and above, and then any property size that would be suitable for somebody, for example, a ground floor property, something all in one level, so that we can, as well as tackle our urgent homeless lists, but actual individuals with complex medical needs.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Councillor Bert Thompson.
You're on? Okay. That is...
No, speak.
Okay. Right, thanks for that report, David. 2 things. I'm glad to see your concern and how important you treat homelessness and victims. Evicting them, which is very important. You're taking that seriously, is great. I don't know if I missed it, but about shelter housing, if you're thinking about that, how big a demand is that and how are we coping with it? Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Again, thanks for your comment, Councillor. In terms of sheltered housing, 4.2 just gives a kind of brief piece of information on the number of sheltered properties we've got, which again in the Hamilton locality is 416, so that's 4% of our housing stock. In terms of Hamilton division, sheltered housing is in high demand. I know from some work I've done recently with colleagues across other local authorities to do with void properties, they have challenges and issues allocating their sheltered housing. We're at the complete other extreme there, where it's a fairly high demand service. I think it's a very positive service that we provide to our tenants, and it is certainly something that's sought after. And again, I think probably all members round the table will probably recognise that through contact for their constituents that are on our waiting list at the moment.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Dave McLaughlin.
Thank you, Chair. Big thank you to David. Everybody in the room knows we've got direct contact with David and his officers, and has been commented on how quickly he responds. And in some cases are very, very complex. David and I know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm sure everybody in the room has similar situations. I just want to thank David and his team for the excellent work that they do. Can I ask a question? It's on the back of a question that was asked earlier about additional funding. The additional funding we received was on the back of a cut to funding initially. Is that additional funding, in your view, compensated for the cut to the funding that we experienced some time earlier? Maybe that's too political a question for you, David, but I just can't resist asking it.
I will probably, if you don't mind, Councillor McLaughlin, take probably a pass on that one and could give an update following this, given that I probably don't have the exact figures across South Lanarkshire, but would always comment that any funding in terms of open market purchases would be more than welcome.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Mary Donnelly.
It's just to welcome your report, David. Is always robust and very, very detailed when you do bring a report to the area committee. And one of the questions that I did have was, do you use work with flexibility if we've got somebody in a 5 apartment or a 4 apartment and the family's fled the nest and are they looking to downsize? Is there flexibility to move people about like that? I'm sure I've got a few where that's happened, and I know you have been very accommodating, the team is really good, but I thought that's somewhere we could have a bit of movement. Thanks, David.
There's probably 2 points there, Councillor Donnelly. First one is in the immediate term, yes, we do have flexibility. We have, in terms of, we have various different housing waiting lists, for example, our urgent homeless list, but one of them is our others categories list. And over the past 2 years, we've been doing work as part of what we've called a downsizing exercise. And it's to look at individuals that are in 5, 4-bedroom properties that are on our waiting list and that we've been struggling to maybe get to them through the transfer list to reallocate them another property. So we've been instead having a look at what they require and then moving them to the other categories list so that we could free up that 4 or 5-bedroom property and then have that become available. So that has been fairly successful. And again, if any members are aware of individuals that are, you know, desperate need, are looking to downsize a property, please get in contact with either myself or my team, because we've probably already had a look at them, but just in case we haven't, we would review their case again and see if there's any way we can get to them. Certainly through the work we've carried out, part of the challenge has been maybe identify another suitable property that they would move to, so it doesn't always work out. But I think over the past 2 years, off the top of my head, there's been about 14 individuals that we've managed to successfully downsize.
That's good.
So it has been positive. And the second point would be, as elected members will be aware, we're about to enter later in the year a review of our allocations policy. So it's maybe just a comment or point to note for when it comes to the review of that policy.
Okay. Thanks for that. Councillor Gavin Keat.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, David, for your report. Are you picking up my mic okay, yeah? Yeah, just first of all, just thank you, David, for your report. I think any opportunity to highlight the housing context that we are in is very welcome. I think it's nothing short of dire, the housing context, which, David, with some of the numbers that were cited in your report, exemplifies that. The Scottish Government announced yesterday, or they committed yesterday, £4.9 billion of funding towards affordable housing, although campaigners have said this is 15,000 houses short, in effect, than what is needed to deal with the housing emergency. So my question to David is, has there been any approaches, discussions with the Scottish Government about what this funding looks like for South Lanarkshire Council, what our share of the additional £5 billion would be?
David?
Councillor Keat, thanks for your comments. Again, I'll probably have to be diplomatic, and given we had some filming in here recently for an American TV show, plead the fifth on that at the moment. Given the kind of how recent that announcement has been, again, I can go back, speak with our head of service, our interim executive director, and can provide updates to members, because that's a matter that's across all of South Lanarkshire rather than just Hamilton Division. But again, would echo my earlier comments that given the pressures that all services are under, we'd welcome any funding to help us grow our stock.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Razak.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points. David, firstly, I say well done to you and the team. I think it's a really hard job you're doing, considering the pressure you're under. You have mentioned the fact about the homeless, but there's really no statistics for the waiting list of people that are in overcrowded houses and other reasons as well. People living with family. It would be good to get those figures as well. Also, the new houses, we have 50 new houses and 20 existing houses use of purchase, which is 70, which realistically is great that we've got 70 extra houses, but really is a drop in the ocean to what the demand is out there. So it would be great if we had some more. The final one is about the 10 evictions. You said it was for arrears, but what about antisocial behaviour? Because there seems to be a spike, well, from the concerns that I've received in antisocial behaviour in different areas. How robustly is that being challenged, and what policies do you have to make sure that the people that are victims of this antisocial behaviour are being protected?
Certainly, Councillor Razak. There was obviously a few points there. So just in terms of our overall waiting list, in terms of our general waiting list, from the last figures that I viewed, we had over 10,000 individuals on our general waiting list, and I can provide information across the other list that we have following the meeting, and obviously would include that within next year's update as well, just so that we've got that covered. In terms of antisocial behaviour, again, I think all the elected members here will be well aware of issues within their areas and issues raised by constituents. Last year, I don't have the figure to hand, but we did carry out a number of antisocial behaviour evictions. Predominantly reasons for those evictions were drugs related, and it were due to convictions disclosed to us, and once disclosed we progressed them towards court for an eviction to be carried out. But there's a number of other tools we look at in terms of tackling antisocial behaviour. So there's, we obviously make use of ASBOs for antisocial behaviour. We have a specialist antisocial behaviour team for perhaps some more serious cases or cases that are escalating. But also there's actions that we take at a local office area. So there's initial warnings that we can issue against an individual's tenancy by a housing officer. We can work with other services in a more supportive way to try and alleviate and tackle antisocial behaviour. So perhaps that's colleagues from social work or third sector agencies. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if antisocial behaviour can be evidenced and continues, it will escalate initially from the local housing team to the antisocial behaviour team. And then if it continues beyond then, if there is breaches of ASBO, that is where we're looking at evictions. And again, it's something that we try and do as a last resort, but we're all aware of the impact antisocial behaviour has on our communities. And again, just to repeat, if it's repeated, it's sustained and evidenced, we will take the most serious enforcement action out there.
Okay.
Thanks, David. I do appreciate the fact that you're under severe pressure, and when you have a 10,000 waiting list, that equates to, if you're having 70 extra houses a year, 140 years before you're managing to fulfil that demand. So I think you need to live hell of a long time, or maybe we need to put the child when it's born on the waiting list in order to get a house, the way it feels. I think the thing I would also say is that the work the housing officers and yourselves are under, the pressure because of the different demands, because of the fact that there's people with mobility issues that have fallen ill and the house isn't suitable for them, people that are homeless, and you know, severe overcrowding, the amount of work and stress you have to go through, I can't imagine. So I would say that, you know, they'll show a lot of appreciation for that. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for that. Councillor David McLaughlin. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the back of Mo's question about antisocial behaviour, I did visit Lorraine Meek and her team a number of months ago. Spoke to every single officer in the department, and I was so very impressed. And in fact, we've had a presentation in here where it was well explained and lots of questions asked and answered. But the eviction rate due to antisocial behaviour, I mean, it's not in this report, and it's just referring to rent arrears evictions as a result of that. But can you comment, David, if the eviction rate for antisocial behaviour is reducing? And if so, is that because the antisocial investigation team are doing an excellent job in tackling the antisocial behaviour and dealing with it at source? Because it is a last resort. Last thing you want to be doing is evicting people from their homes, because it just creates a knock-on effect. So if the antisocial investigation team can deal with the issues and resolve a lot of the problems, it saves us reaching that level where we're looking for to evict people from their homes. Could you comment on that, David? Thank you.
I think the first point I'd probably make in terms of antisocial behaviour and evictions, there's so many external factors that affect if we have an eviction. In terms of a lot of the times that will be due to a conviction at court, and we're still probably experiencing some of the backlog that's happened in the court systems due to COVID. So I think in terms of looking at the figures there, it is up and down, so it's hard to make an assessment of the direct correlation in terms of actions taken by the antisocial behaviour team and the local housing teams. However, with that said, I think there is a hell of a lot of positive work that goes on through the local housing team, but essentially for those more complex cases, through the antisocial behaviour investigation team, we've got, I think they've got a team of 6 officers at the Joint Problem Solving Unit that would tackle antisocial behaviour, all with a range of skills, experience, quite a lot of them ex-Police Scotland, which is invaluable for us in terms of the experience they've got, the links that they have with colleagues at Police Scotland, but as well as they have positive links with other services, social work, in terms of taking that supportive approach, a lot of third sector agencies, because again, to satisfy a court in terms of looking for an eviction, it is, even for antisocial behaviour, it is an absolute last resort, and a sheriff would be looking for that assurance that we have ticked every box in terms of looking at a supportive approach as well as the more punitive side. So yes, I think to answer your question, Councillor McLaughlin, I think there's a lot of excellent work carried out by the Joint Problem Solving Unit team that reduces the number of actions that we would carried out if they weren't there.
Thank you. Chair, can I come back in? It might have been remiss of me, in fact it was, because I spoke purely about the antisocial investigation team, but as you've just explained in your response, the local teams deal with these matters before it escalates to the antisocial investigation team. So there isn't a tremendous amount of work done at that level before it reaches Lorraine Meek and her team. So that's encouraging. So I just thought I'd clarify that, Chair. Thank you very much again, David.
Right. There are no further questions. Do we agree to note the report? Thank you. Thanks for your time, David. If you wish to leave the meeting. Okay, cheers. We're on to item 5, participatory budget micro grants update, pages 15 to 16, and Kenny Lean to speak to the report. Kenny.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Afternoon, councillors. After 2 substantial reports, this will be one of the briefer reports that you have to read. It's the annual update on the participatory budgeting from micro grants, and should come to this area committees once a year. As councillors will be aware, we introduced the microgrant scheme using the Renewable Energy Fund originally in 2019, and after a trial period of 2 years, we made it a permanent fixture from 2021. The Hamilton area, so it's open to community councils and equivalent approved community organisations where there isn't a community council. In 24-25, 7 community councils were awarded grants within the Hamilton area, totalling 33,500. And as of the 5th of July, and I've just recently checked as well, as of just now, 5 organisations have submitted the claims information from last year and applied for their funds this year and have received their funds of 22,000 and are administering the funds this year. We have done a reminder to organisations and are following up the people that have not submitted the claims evidence, and will follow that through in due course. And councillors, that's the report. Chair, thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Councillor Razak.
Thanks for the report, Kenny. I think it's a great way of reaching out to the smaller groups and giving them the money, because it can be problematic asking for a local area grant for funding for smaller amounts, and it does help groups that are on the ground in the front line, and I think must say that that's well done.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Mary Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Kenny. I know that the grants are very, very well received within Hill House. They do go down, you know, if the groups weren't applying the grants, there wouldn't be that amount of, you know, 5,000 going into the local community, which does make a difference. And you can see that difference. The schools, the parent councils and things really, really do welcome it when they apply for their £500. And then what they do with it is really tremendous. So again, thank you very much for making that available within our ward. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Devlin.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Kenny, because both Bothwell and Uddingston apply for the community for the micro grants, and it's really quite good the fact that they take ownership for where it's going. I think in another kind of way it might cause a bit of a problem, as we've experienced here. It's getting these different groups to understand as well that they can apply for a community grant as well, so it's not mutually exclusive. And this is where the problem starts to arise with some of us. But no, I think it's a great thing, and if we could increase it, I would definitely increase it. But thanks anyway. Thanks for your team. Thanks.
Okay, any further questions? I've just a question, Kenny, and it's the matter the Ernock Residents Association, SOC and Hill House supporting our communities. They're giving out the grants, but they're actually receiving the grants as well. Is there no conflict of interest in there?
So the guidance we give to all organisations is they can apply, and it sounds quite unusual, but they can apply to themselves for one £500 grant. So they can award themselves one grant. Now, we thought that was sensible to allow for the administration costs if they were advertising or promoting it or printing out paperwork. Or also in some smaller communities, they may be the only organisation that can deliver an event or something like that. So we think proportionate to allow the organisation managing it to have a grant of 500 is acceptable. And you know, we check that when the reports, the returns come back in. So it should be on that basis. If it's with that, we'd have a look.
Okay, that's fine. No further questions? Okay, we agree to accept the report, to note the report? Agreed. Agreed, thanks very much, Kenny. Thank you. Okay, you're going to speak on this. Okay, we're on to item 6, forward programme for future meetings, pages 17 to 20. Stuart, to speak to that.
Thanks, Chair. The report provides members with a copy of the forward programme of business for meetings of the Hamilton Area Committee. As well as asking members to note the content of the forward programme, members are also invited to suggest future topics. As per the recommendation at section 2.1, members are asked to note the forward programme of business and I would ask members if you can please send any suggested topics to myself or Laura Cunningham by email. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Questions, Councillor Ross Clark.
Thank you, Chair. At the last meeting I had asked about, and it's noted in the minutes from the previous meeting, about an update on the works at the Gypsy Traveller site in Larkhall and engagement with the Gypsy Traveller community, and also on behalf of another member, violence against women and girls. I note that it's not in the forward programme on this paper. I'd just like to ask if its inclusion, or the inclusion of both of those items, was considered.
Yeah, so whenever any suggested topics are proposed by members, they're fed back to the relevant resources, and then there'll be discussions about the appropriate forum or whatever for that to be picked up. So as I've just now, there's nothing in the forward programme at the moment, but it's not to say that it won't be put into the forward programme at some point in the future.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Leslie MacDonald.
Thanks, Chair. In November, I note we have Police Scotland's presentation. You may recall at last year's meeting, there was no police here from Larkhall, and they told me that they went to Lanark. They did the Clydesdale area committee, and I objected to that because there's a lot of people here and a lot of councillors here that should hear directly from the police in Larkhall. So can you ensure that Larkhall Police will be here? They don't just cover Larkhall, they cover Carluke, Lanark, etc. But they're also in Stonehouse, Blackwood, Kirkmuir Hill. And I understand a lot of it is in Clydesdale, but that's their fault, it's not mine, that they're not coming to the Hamilton Area Committee. So can Stuart ensure that we have Larkhall Police invited to the meeting on the 12th of November, please?
Okay, we could make that suggestion to the police and then see if they'll take that up.
Well, it was assured that they would be here the last time. I was assured by whoever the Chief Inspector was, or whoever it was, that was here in November last year.
Okay. Okay,
Thank
Stuart.
you.
No further questions? Okay, we decide to agree to note that report. Items for decision, item 7, community grant applications 21 to 24. Stuart, you want to say that?
Thanks, Chair. This is a standard report submitted in respect of community grant applications. Report details applications that meet the relevant criteria. Summary of the financial position is provided at section 5 of the report, and the recommended grant awards are detailed at section 2.1 of the report. Thank you.
Okay. Questions, Councillor Ross Clark.
Thank you, Chair. I think, considering that after this meeting we will be halfway through the committee cycle for the Hamilton Area Committee, and we won't even have used half or almost half of the funding for the community grants, we're likely going to be, or we will end up in a very similar position to last year and previous years, where we have a massive amount of money left over unspent, which could be used, for our community groups. So it's because of that reason I'd like to move that. I'll make sure we get the correct wording, that the total eligible amounts applied for up to a maximum of 1,000, rather than the officer's recommendations, be approved.
Okay, Councillor Clark, I may point out that this has been raised often before. We agreed before the start of this administration, among all the area committees, that groups would get 60% of what they applied for. You've raised it 2 or 3 times and it's went to a vote. So without further ado, I'm proposing that we accept the recommendation. Do you have a seconder? Most seconded it. Okay. Would you like to put your amendment, Councillor Clark? Who's seconding it? Okay. Okay.
Councillor Dewar.
Councillor Dewar. We'll take a vote when it's ready.
Councillor McLaughlin, you want them to come in?
David? Councillor McLaughlin?
Yeah, that's it. No, I mean, I do take the point, you know, if there's money, it'd be good to get that distributed. But there's a reason. I've sat in your chair many, many years ago, dealing with the same situation. And when you allocate the money for the grant at the start of the financial year, you never know how many applications you're likely to get. So the formula that's been agreed is to make sure, as best we can, that we don't run out of money at the end of the year. But it's been the case, as has been pointed out, that there's been situations where we haven't allocated the money. But I'll repeat the point I've made at the last area committee of the financial year a couple of times when there's been requested to just grant the whole amount. It is unfair to the people who are making their applications at the moment, and they're getting their allocated amount based on the guidance that's been set, as you've intimated, Chair. So while I think, yeah, there's money here to be distributed to the community, but it's for the wider community. And in order to make sure that this money is spent, and because we want to see it spent, we want to see it going to good causes within the community, but I think there's work to be done on making sure that people are aware that these grants are available. Because it's, as I recollect, there seemed to have been more applications in years gone by than there is at the moment. And I don't know that I can't address that right now, but I just wonder if it's worthwhile considering what we might do as a council, not necessarily this area committee, to highlight to community groups a bit more widely that there is funding here available, because I'm sure everybody in the room will be in a situation where people weren't aware that they could get the grants, in particular the start-up grants, because organisations, when they're looking to start up, the start-up grant is very, very useful to get the thing rolling, and then they can start to see what's available. So I would suggest, Chair, and through your clerk, if you can just take it back to whatever department it is that's going to look at this, to see if we can find a way to make sure that the grant money is spread better, and that would be done to more people, more organisations applying, because there is a rationale for not just granting everything that everyone asks for, and it's to make sure that we keep enough money, because you can never tell. You know, at the start of the year, halfway through the year, and you're making a reasonable point because it's halfway through the year, but the problem is you just don't know what's going to happen. But I'm coming back to my point, Chair. I think it's unfair in the organisations who make their applications early, that they don't get the amount that the organisations may get if they apply late, because I think it's been mentioned by other members, where a pattern could develop and say, well, don't apply just now, apply later on in the year and you'll get more because you'll need to spend the money. There's a risk there, Chair, and it's just, that's my concern. So if that could be noted and passed on to whatever officials could look at ways that we can make this more available to the wider community and the groups.
Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you. And I take on board the comments that are being made, but I have got a dispute within one of my groups. In my group, and this is because the four chairs all got together and decided the 60%, because they applied for their money, and for the last 2-3 years, they got their full ask. And they have now came to me and said, we got the 60% for admin, and it is putting the group in dispute of surviving, because if that happened again, they actually would be out of business, and they're a very, very good group, and they are seriously have come to me, and seriously, because they only got the 60% ask, they are now questioning whether they are going to be able to survive with that ask if they had to get 60% for the next year. They have come and said they are in a serious financial dispute because they've got nowhere else to go other than the wind farm money, and they are taking the 500 for that, but they are putting themselves into jeopardy of surviving, and that came up at their meeting that Alan and I were at as well. So I'm supporting the proposal that Councillor is putting forward.
Okay. In answer to your point, Councillor Donnelly, each councillor's ward was awarded £50,000, and if
This
the
is
groups
out
have
with
it in
this,
dire
Alan.
straits,
This is
then
out with
they
this,
could
Alan.
have distributed it. In Davy's point, these groups, and it's a community grants for community, and I would imagine any groups within communities would know who their local councillors were and seek advice for their local councillors on that issue, right?
And that's what they did. They
Right.
did come and ask for advice.
Well, they should have asked it for the 50,000. Okay, so we have took, I'm proposing that we do the recommendation and we've got an amendment for Councillor Ross Clark. Okay, go to the vote. No further comments. Councillor McLachlan.
No, I'm responding to Mary's point, and I suppose Mary will suggest it's a valid point, but the difficulty with community grants, the community grants aren't there to completely fund organisations, they're there to help organisations, and groups should be looking to do their own fundraising, so they shouldn't be completely reliant. Mary, I'm sorry to be saying that, but groups shouldn't be completely reliant on the community grants. That's not what it's there for, that's not the purpose of it. It's to help with various activities, not to fund them solely. I think I'm correct in saying that. Maybe the clerk could correct me if I'm wrong. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Devlin.
You had a guy sitting here 5 minutes ago that's got a whole team that's quite happy to bring some of his members out and talk to community groups to see if there's other funding that they can tap into. So, because and they're really good at helping them to, even to the extent of filling out these application forms, because I know they can be quite large and quite daunting for somebody to do. But I've got to agree with my colleagues. This is something that it's just not fair who applies at the start and who applies at the end. And then the other aspect of it as well, our friend Councillor Ross just goes out and puts it all over Facebook that the Labour Party and the Tory Party voted against community groups getting funding. So that's my speech for the day.
Thanks for that, Councillor Devlin. Can I just say, again to Councillor Donnelly, the group you're talking about actually got £500 for administration, as Kenny Lean just pointed out. They weren't going to shut. They took on the administration, the micro grants, and were allowed to offer themselves £500.
Councillor Donnelly hasn't got a microphone on. Do you want her to come in?
Sorry?
She's not got a microphone on. Do you want
No,
her
it's okay. Okay. Councillor MacDonald.
Chair, can we just go to the vote? I think we've wasted enough time in this. Please. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is to accept the recommendation, the amendment for Councillor Ross Clark is to give the groups the full amounts. Okay.
Up to £1,000.
Yeah, sorry, if I can just clarify, so it would be the full amount requested up to a maximum of £1,000 is the amendment. Okay, the vote is now open. If members can please indicate your voting preference. Thank you. It would appear that one member is still to cast their vote. If you can ask it, please make sure you've all cast your voting preference.
Okay.
You'd appear to still be one vote short. Can I please ask that all members make sure that you've indicated your voting preference? Councillor Nelson's left the meeting.
Okay. So what's the vote?
Can I ask members, does all members in the room have the vote on your screen and have indicated your voting preference? We still appear to be one vote short.
This was mine.
Again, if I could just ask if all members could please press their buttons again.
What's the vote anyway?
I don't know, one short. Someone doesn't appear to be casting their vote.
Well, if they've not voted, then it's up to them.
Close the vote. Okay, the chair is asked to close the vote.
Close the vote.
So 8 members have voted in favour of the motion, 7 in favour of the amendment and 1 has abstained. Therefore, declare the motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item 8, urgent business. I've no notification of any urgent business. Thank you all for your attendance. Declare the meeting closed.
Why would you abstain?
Sorry?
Somebody abstained.
So who has to vote it?